that changed my life when I was 5 years old. It not only got me started in environmental activism, but it also showed me that adults don't always take action to protect our planet. It's a true story about a whale named Ibis. In the story, Ibis got caught in a fishing net, but she was very lucky and she got rescued. At 5 years old, I loved that story. So I asked my parents to read me the author's note. And the author's note said that most whales don't get free, they die. I was horrified. How could adults not be doing anything to stop this? So I did what any little kid would do. I cried and whined for 3 days until my dad couldn't take it anymore and said, well, if you don't like something, then do something about it. So I did. I started working to protect whales, and I spent the last 10 years of my life lobbying politicians, speaking at events, and going into schools to educate people about whales in the ocean. But then, in October of 2018, the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change released a report. Their report said that we need to limit global warming to 1.5 degrees Celsius. That 2 degrees Celsius of warming would be catastrophic, and that we have 12 years to accomplish these goals. And for the first time in my life, I felt like this problem was too big. Like there was nothing I could do to help combat climate change. And I was also so scared. Because at that time we had 12 years, now we're down to 11. And in 11 years from now, I will be 26, and my sister will be 24. And I still want a safe future for us and our generation. And that is when I joined the Sunrise Movement. And ever since then, I have been taking action on climate change. The other speakers are going to help educate us on a lot of important issues related to climate change. So what I want to do is I want to talk about something that is also very important to our climate fight. The 2020 election. As you know, this election is coming up. And we don't just want to get a climate denier out of the White House. We want to elect a climate leader instead. Some politicians will say that small incremental changes are all that is possible. But that time is over. Perhaps if we had acted upon climate change in 1960, when we first identified that CO2 levels were rising. Perhaps if we had acted upon climate change in 1979, when we determined that doubling CO2 in the atmosphere would raise temperatures 3 to 8 degrees Fahrenheit. Perhaps if we had taken action in 1989, when George H.W. Bush was elected president and promised to do something about it. Perhaps if we had taken action in the past, we wouldn't have to take such drastic action now. But we didn't. And now it's a huge weight hanging over me, my generation, and future generations. But we are here today to get rid of that weight. To tell public officials that even though they may think the kind of climate action we are asking for is impossible, we know that it is not only possible, but necessary. 50 years ago, humans accomplished something momentous when the first man set foot on the moon. When President Kennedy first proposed we do this, there were many technical challenges that seemed insurmountable. In fact, President Kennedy even said, we choose to go to the moon in this decade not because it is easy, but because it is hard. Fighting climate change has similar challenges. We don't know exactly how to solve all the technical challenges of switching to a sustainable world. But we do know that we are not fighting for just one community or one generation. We are fighting for all people. And we are working towards clean air, clean water, and a livable future for everyone. And we are not doing this because it is easy or because it is hard. We are doing this because our future is at stake. The 2020 election is our last chance to have a commander-in-chief who can take action on climate change and prevent the worst consequences from happening. But I won't be old enough to vote in this election. So I'm asking all of you who are or will be old enough to vote to get out there and to do so. I'm asking you to vote for me and my generation. I'm asking you for our future. I spent the last couple months helping plan this event. And what I really want to see come out of all this planning that was put into today is not just one day of action. I want to know that all of you are going to go home and continue to take action.
Yes!
Yes!
That you're going to go tell others what we learned.
Yes.
And that you're going to become a climate activist. This way, in 2020, we will take back our future. And we will ensure a just and secure future for all. Thank you.
Climate change affects so many other issues, not just the environment. Sonya Berri, who's from Sunrise, Connecticut, and a student at Wesleyan, is going to talk to us about the impact of climate change on immigration.
Before I start, I just want to give a huge round of applause to Sena and everyone from Sunrise, Connecticut. This is crazy. And she's our own Greta. She's only 15. I've memorized the consequences of climate change as if they were vocab words. I've used them in every essay, exam, or explanation as to why I'm an environmental studies major and not something I can actually get a job in. Sea level rise, storms, droughts, erosion, landslides, flooding. It's easy to say, just like news is often easy to ignore. Sea level rise, storms, drought, erosion, landslide, flooding. Today there are at least 20 million people that have abandoned their homes because of such consequences. 20 million is more people than those displaced by war and political repression combined. 20 million is also easy to say, but it's not easy to think about. I think about my home, the people that live there, the places I love, the food and goods it provides for the rest of the world. And then I think of it underwater, destroyed by a storm, eroded, how there is nothing left to save and nowhere else to go. And then I think of that through 20 million eyes. Bangladesh holds 165 million people in an area smaller than Illinois. Climate change has disrupted traditional rain patterns, droughts in some areas, and dangerous flooding and riverbank erosion in others. Droughts means unhabitable land. Unhabitable land means crop failure and water shortage. Crop failure and water shortage means fleeing in an attempt to escape starvation and dehydration. Dangerous flooding and riverbank erosion means fleeing for sake of survival. Over the last decade, nearly 700,000 Bangladeshis were displaced on average each year. 700,000 each year. In 40 years, 60% of livable land in Miami will be underwater. 60% of livable land in Miami. The United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees has deemed people in such situations, those in Bangladesh and those around the world, as environmental migrants. Migrants are defined as those who move for economic reasons, defined as those who leave their native countries not because they are forced, but to seek better opportunities. Leaving in case of survival is not seeking a better opportunity. These people are not migrants. These people are refugees, leaving their home and fleeing from unbearable conditions, fleeing from something all of us collectively have created, but they are being punished for. In the midst of all this hecticness, it is important to remind ourselves that our current system of international law is not written to protect climate refugees. There are no legal agreements requiring countries to support those escaping crisis. It is also important to remind ourselves that the people in power, the people making such laws, or rather not making such laws, are generally those that do not fall in demographics that are being targeted by those environmental issues. In a more blunt way, when 20 million people are forced to abandon the places that have held them all their lives, our elected officials stay. When 20 million people have become, quite literally, homeless, houseless, cultureless, our elected officials have not. When 20 million families cannot put food on the table because crops have become so expensive and rare due to lack of land, our elected officials can. I've never really fallen for the us versus them rhetoric, but it is crucial to be aware that there are groups that are systematically suffering from climate change. There are groups of people that are dying, starving, drowning to death. And it will only get worse. The groups will expand until it becomes all of us. Will we care then when it is all of us? Right now, this is probably one of the most important things that we do in our entire life. And there will be people that mock us. Of course, there will be people that mock us. It's so easy to do that. It's easy to separate ourselves from the well-being of the earth. We have been doing that for far too long. And when we attempt to end this separation, when we attempt to speak of the earth as what it is, something that gives us life, when we attempt to speak of climate change as what it is, an intense security threat that needs immediate response, it is easy for people to deem us as too idealistic, too young, too radical. Too idealistic, too young, too radical. It is not idealistic to want a world where everyone has access to clean air and water. We are not too young to worry about having to abandon our homes because they are destroyed. Desiring an economy that is not built around a resource that is harmful and also dwindling is not radical. This is not an overreaction. There has been years, decades of ignorance, of underreaction. This is not an overreaction. We are fighting for human rights, and we will continue to fight. I know most things are not clear-cut. There is never just one answer. It's usually a foggy mix of everything, which is why life is so confusing. We then are lucky. In regards to the fight against climate change, there is simply right and wrong. Wrong are those who deny, those who ridicule, and those who stay silent. Right are those who recognize, those who take action, those who support. It is as simple as that. There is hope in solidarity. There is hope in actions that begin as purely symbolic because no action is ever purely symbolic. There is hope in protest. There is hope in supporting one another. I want to say thank you for Unidad Latina en Acción, a grassroots social justice organization made up of immigrants in the greater New Haven area for endorsing the strike. This is how we overcome injustice, and this is how we overcome inequality. When I look ahead to the future, I look to myself and I look to all of you. It is us who are unfortunately threatened with an issue as intense and frightening as climate change, but it is also us who will overcome it. We will continue to advocate for ourselves, for our brothers, for our sisters, and for what is right, and we will do it together. Today we march, tomorrow we strike, and then we continue, day after day. Thank you.
Sonya. She mentioned solidarity, and for too long we've been told that you can't have green jobs and a green economy and that these two things are separate. So I'm glad to welcome our union brothers and sisters here to this climate rally. And I'd like to introduce the president of SEIU 1199, Baril.
Good afternoon. My name is Baril. I'm the president of District 1199, the New England Healthcare Employees Union. We're the largest union of healthcare providers in Connecticut with 25,000 members, from doctors to nurses' aides to housekeepers to dietary workers. And we are both proud and honored to stand with you on this glorious day at the youth-led Climate Justice Strike. We thank the Connecticut Roundtable on Climate and Jobs for leading this effort and for helping to empower our young people in the Youth Climate Strike. We're a union of caregivers with progressive values. Our top priority is providing the highest quality of care for people. And so our union is well aware of the critical importance of addressing climate change and doing so with urgency. Every one of us knows that climate change is hurting poor and working class communities. In our own country, 10 years ago, Hurricane Katrina led to the deaths of over 5,000, almost entirely black and brown, almost entirely poor, and all working class people in the city of New Orleans. On the island where my family comes from, Haiti, every hurricane season, the island is battered. We've just seen the destruction in the Bahamas and on the island of Puerto Rico 2 years ago. And so we know that climate justice does not impact all communities evenly. It impacts working class people, black communities, brown communities, unequally and unjustly. And so we need to take a stand to understand that those catastrophic consequences have an impact that we need to stand up and fight against. Waiting is not an option. Real change is happening right now, and global solutions must be implemented. We know that making change on climate justice will be a fight. There is a global 1% that is benefiting by the policies that exist that allow our planet to be warmed. We have to stand up to the oil and gas companies who are pillaging Mother Earth at the same time that they're pillaging working class communities and their own workforces. And our state governments must be pressured like we're doing here today to establish public policies that clean up the environmental mess created by the greedy few and empower workers in clean energy jobs, in transportation and renewable energy. Let's continue to organize. Let's make sure we do so in part by educating ourselves and others on climate change. But more than that, we need to be sure that we understand where real power comes from. It comes in the halls of power, like our Capitol, but more than that, it comes right here in the streets. And as a union, we will be with you today, we will be with you tomorrow, and we will be with you until we achieve climate justice for all. Thank you.
Word out on social media, and also we've got some legislators here actually taking some climate leadership. Woo!
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for being here. So good to see so many people here. I am here to say some brief announcements and to say some brief thank yous. Restrooms, if you need them, are in the building. The entrance is on this end. Immediately after the rally, we're going to have a die-in right here, wait for instructions. After that, there's going to be a documentary film by some students in Massachusetts who have gotten up close and personal with natural gas and have a message for us. There is a petition circulating. There's clipboards floating around. And there's a table back over here. Maybe you can find one. Make a signature on it. Thank you. We have a mailing list. If you've not been receiving stuff from us, please put your name on the mailing list. It's on the table back over on the side over here. Who's got the hashtag signs? We've got 3 or 4. Here's one right here. Hashtag signs. If you're posting something today, please use that hashtag. Use the other hashtags. Thank you very much. We have with us a group of legislators who I want to briefly name and thank. Senator Christine Cohen. Senator Blumenthal. Representative Christine Palm. Representative Lucy Datham. Representative Ann Hughes, Representative David Michel, Senator May Flexor, Senator Matt Lesser, and Representative Mary Mashetsky. I also want to thank the people who made this rally possible. All of you, for starters, thank yourselves. Donors who provided $13,000 for publicity and for other preparations like rental of sound equipment. As of this morning, 91 endorsing organizations. There are probably 100 or so people who turned out for meetings this summer to organize this event. Dozens of those people who really worked full tilt all summer doing, my notes go, doing fundraising, doing outreach, doing publicity, designing banners, hiring people to meter the sound system, etc. Organizing loose ends, of which there are and have been thousands. I also want to thank our speakers today. I want to thank our musicians today. I want to thank the people who set up and organized the sound system. And finally, I want to thank the people who are here doing photography and videography. All of this is what it takes to put it on. Thank you.
All right, we've all heard AOC talking about the Green New Deal, and so I want to invite Kira up from Sunrise, Connecticut. Talk about the Green New Deal.
Hello everyone, I would have said good afternoon, but the world is dying, so let's leave it at that. My name is Kira Taliba. I'm the state lead of Connecticut on behalf of the United States Youth Climate Strikes. When it comes to climate change, it's all really too much when you're trying to learn about it. The media and the politicians say one thing and environmental groups say another, so it's hard to keep up. So let's lay down the facts. The Earth over the past million years, global temperature rose a total 4 to 7 degrees Celsius over 5,000 years. In the past century alone, temperature has climbed 0.7 degrees Celsius. We can roughly say that the temperature raised 0.1 degrees Celsius per century in those past 5,000 years. And I've done the math. If we continue at the current rate of 0.7 Celsius per century for 5,000 years, we'll reach 35 degrees, not 5 degrees. That speed of warming is already rising, which is why we need a Green New Deal. When it comes to the confusion circling around climate change, no one really defines what the Green New Deal is. I'll cut it down for you. It's a plan to fight climate change and to lower greenhouse gas emissions by half by the year 2030. It originated in the Paris Agreement. It was introduced in 2016 by Jill Stein, and Ocasio-Cortez has taken over. My mom. Not really, but here's the details. Become 100% renewable in 10 years. In 2017, only 11% of the nation's energy consumption came from renewables, and that's just not enough for us. It reflects Franklin D. Roosevelt's New Deal, which created 47 programs that created new jobs for people across the country and supported local farmers as well to combat the Great Depression. We want to build a national energy smart power grid. We want to build new buildings. We want to upgrade our buildings. We want to decarbonize our manufacturing, and we want to fund massive investment and draw down and capture our greenhouse gases. By creating this green technology, creating this green economy, we can become the leading country in decarbonizing others, making a pathway for lower income countries, for third world countries. High-speed rails, public transit, and zero-emission vehicles are part of that too. So where would we be if that was implemented? We would have universal health care, and that would become an advocate for universal basic income, and I'm seeing a lot of students here, so I think we need that too. So where are we seeing a downfall with this plan? I mean, of course we have to find the funding, but it's better than watching your children suffer from asthma, better than watching them cry that their favorite animal has gone extinct, and it's better than losing our lives. I mean, I spend money on this instead of dying. Thank you.
Climate change is an environmental justice issue, and at the core of that is energy efficiency. Mitchel Kvedar is going to talk to us about environmental justice, energy efficiency, how this impacts communities around the country and around the world. And he's also going to lead us in a Sunrise Connecticut song.
Okay guys, so we're going to be doing those chants first from Sunrise, so just give us a second. We're going to try to train you guys how to learn the song so you can go out and do it yourself. They're really powerful, they're really motivational, and they're a lot of fun.
And none of us have good voices.
That's true. I'm losing my voice already.
Okay, that's a bad joke. This is radio mic.
What do you grab that one over there? What do you over there?
So we're going to do a couple verses, and then you're going to repeat after us. So when we point to you, repeat what we just sang.
Yeah, right now we're just going to try to show you guys how to do this. It's not a very long song. Our one that we'll do later is a little bit trickier, but this one's to get you guys introduced.
Alright, so it goes like this. We gonna rise up till it's won. 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 When people rise up, powers come down. When the people rise up, the powers come down. When the people rise up, the powers come down. When the people rise up, the powers come down. They try to stop us, but we keep coming back. They try to stop us, but we keep coming back. They try to stop us, but we keep coming back. They try to stop us, but we keep coming back. Let's bring it up first. We gotta rise up till it's won. Louder! Gonna rise up till it's won. We gonna rise up till it's won. We gonna rise up till it's won. When the people rise up, the powers come down. When the people rise up, the powers come down. They try to stop us, but we keep coming back. They try to stop us, but we keep coming back. We gonna rise up till it's won. Rise up till it's won. We gonna rise up till it's won. What? We gonna rise up till it's won. We rise up, the powers come down. When people rise up, the powers come down. Stop us, but we keep coming back. They try to stop us, but we keep coming back. Rise up, 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 stand up, rise up right now.
Alrighty guys, I'm back. A little bit less of a fun note now, unfortunately, but I'm already losing my voice, so I'm sorry about that. But I'm going to talk to you guys about the need for affordable energy in the state of Connecticut. This one's a personal issue with myself, and this is the first time I'll be talking about it in this day, so bear with me. So, the price of energy is something that affects everyone, especially here in the state of Connecticut. We have the third highest energy rates in the nation. That's absolutely insane. Now, my parents got divorced when I was 5 years old, as do many families in today's world. And I ended up living with just my mother and sister. And despite being a white male who normally come off as having a decent amount of privilege, my family struggled with our finances throughout my entire life. And we've gone through our share of rough times. In particular, my family has consistently struggled to pay for our astronomically high energy bills. Now, I remember when I was much younger than I am today, coming home off the bus to find yet again the power out. Which could be fixed in a few hours with my mom pleading with the energy company for just pleading for a few days before the energy bill or before the paycheck came in. But as a kid, I didn't understand that, not one bit. I just wanted to come home and watch my TV and maybe play some Xbox. I remember being upset with my mom, my own mother, and having some sort of resentment about it all. But at that age, I didn't really understand what was happening, not really knowing why it happened to me and my family, and not all my friends. Not understanding that my mom was just working to make ends meet, and if it meant a couple of days without electricity, we can make it work. If it meant keeping the power on, or myself, or perhaps my sister, going on a field trip we've been begging her about for a month, it meant we were going to go on that field trip and sacrifice the energy, the electricity for 2 days. Now, as I got older, I obviously came to understand why all this happened and felt extremely guilty about how I used to feel in regards to it all. I watched as my sister got older and I got wiser. My sister grew bitter, frustrated, and reached the same point that I had reached. And seeing how that affected my mom, knowing that's exactly how I must have been at that age, is something I can never take back. Now, years later, here I am in front of you all, working on environmental policy and with all these youth movements. And last year, I was privileged enough to be a part of the Governor's Transition Committee on Energy Policy. There, I discovered something astonishing. While discussing policy at the table with the governor and with many other groups involved, they're discussing how over 400,000 Connecticut households cannot pay their energy bills when it comes time to pay those bills, and they're turned off. Now I realized, sitting at that table, I was part of that statistic, and that hit me hard. Statistics that they were discussing in that room, and I was a part of it, and I never thought about that before. I know so many people are affected by this issue, and I know a lot of people have it far worse than me, or how I had it. But with everything coming full circle, and me getting into environmental work to stop climate change and other issues, and suddenly here I am presenting the data regarding how my life has been leading up to this. And as I stated, Connecticut has the third highest cost of energy in the nation, and our people do suffer. I know many have had it worse. But I'm not here, and I'm not going to stand by and let more children get off that school bus in elementary school and despise their mom or dad or whoever's taking care of them because they don't have power that night. I'm not going to let families have to choose between a meal on the table or lights and heat in their home. Not in my state. That's not the state of Connecticut I know. Connecticut cares about its people, and I think this is an issue this state needs to tackle. And there's an easy answer. This answer is often overlooked, even by the environmental groups. It's called energy efficiency. And it's the most effective and easiest way to fight climate change. Many of you might have no idea what that is. This might be the first time you're hearing about this term. And energy efficiency isn't a sexy term like solar or wind power. It's not. But energy efficiency has kept our state from building 3 new power plants, fossil fuel plants, in the last few years. Energy efficiency focuses on drawing down energy usage across all sectors, across residential, across industrial, across governmental, across everything. It means upgrading our heating and cooling systems to have them being more efficient. It means insulating our buildings so that we don't waste power, generating heat that just goes right out the uninsulated roof. It means swapping out inefficient appliances. And again, I know it's not very sexy, I'm not up here talking about wind power and solar power, but this has a resounding effect on both saving the ratepayer money, people like my mom, and saving the grid energy that wouldn't have to be produced. And the possibilities of energy efficiency do not end with simply people saving money on their energy bills. If the United States reduced energy consumption by 15% through these types of programs, there would be 30,000 fewer asthma attacks, 6 lives saved every day, 20 billion would be saved in healthcare alone. And in Connecticut, every dollar invested in energy efficiency, get this, means $7 back into the Connecticut economy. That's a crazy rate. Energy efficiency in the state of Connecticut alone provides 34,000 jobs, while saving $32 million for Connecticut businesses annually, and $42.7 million for residential homes. It's absolutely insane, and it's not talked about very much. And efficiency, which has been underfunded in the past, and in 2019, and under-celebrated by our state leadership, has already moved like 26,000 tons of CO2 every year from entering our atmosphere. Energy efficiency is really a solution that should be adopted everywhere. And that number is an equivalent of 11.4 million tons of emissions from cars off the road, or 2.4 million cars off the road, I'm sorry. Now, one of our asks today is that we expand energy efficiency in the state of Connecticut. We have the Conservation and Load Management Plan, but this has been rated in both 2017 and 2019. We're pulling funds from it, we're pulling funds from it to fill holes in the general budget, rather than going to the programs that they're supposed to go to, helping low-income and marginalized communities pay for these installations of more efficient appliances or of insulation. And it's unfortunate that we're pulling funds from this fund that was originally set up to help families reduce their energy bills and reduce our consumption. And it's unfortunate that all of the money that goes into this program, every energy bill we pay, a small segment of it is supposed to go into this program to help people in the state of Connecticut save money on their energy bills. And our state legislature has pulled funds from it to fill general holes in the budget. With this energy efficiency has an amazing return on investment, $1 to $7 ratio. That's absolutely insane. Why would our state legislature pull money from something that returns money to this sort of economy that we have in California? It's crazy. So I just wanted to highlight that and bring that all to your attention, and hopefully you can bring that out to all of your own groups that I know you're all a part of here today. And I'll be speaking again later, but that's my story on energy efficiency.
Energy efficiency, it's an environmental justice issue, and I really was moved by the fact that we prevented the building of 3 fossil fuel plants because of energy efficiency. Did you know that the Connecticut Siting Council just cited in June another natural gas plant in Killingly? Natural gas is not only bad for the climate, it's dangerous. And I want to invite Madelyn Lombard, who's a high school producer for Under Pressure, up to tell you her story.
My name is Madelyn Lombard, and I rode the bus from Northampton, Massachusetts today, so I could share my experience last year producing a documentary called Under Pressure with my high school senior class. The film is an expose about fracked gas and a fierce call to climate action. But first, a bit about me. I'm actually a rather shy botany nerd who loves nothing more than studying and propagating plants. They astonish me with their genius and beauty. Plus, they don't require much conversation, which for an introvert is a total bonus. It's impossible to love plants and not realize how threatened they are by climate change. Up to 70% of these photosynthesizing, oxygenating wizards, which, by the way, underpin our very existence, face extinction in the next 100 I got very angry. I got very depressed. And then I got very vocal. I realized that, fair or not, I did not have the luxury to become that serene field botanist who skips through meadows of wildflowers. If I wanted to preserve this biodiverse world, I had to become a fiery activist. And use every opportunity to shout, "We face extinction! We demand climate action!" Over the past 4 years, I've joined fellow teams to deliver that message directly to my state and federal representatives, write letters to the editor, march at rallies, and testify at the State House. Which brings me back to Under Pressure. The school project began as a narrow investigation of the gas explosions in the Merrimack Valley of Massachusetts last year. What happened? Who was responsible? What was the damage? How did folks get their heat back? But, often to the annoyance of my classmates, I kept pushing to open the lens of our study, to connect these explosions to the fracked gas that caused them, and to the larger story of how our dependence on gas accelerates our climate crisis. The Under Pressure film ultimately connected those dots. Now it is this powerful youth-made mobilizing tool. Use it to help fight new gas infrastructure in Connecticut. To young people, I say connect the dots. Climate change threatens everything and everyone you love. Organize. Agitate. You don't want to be investing millions of your ratepayer dollars in a dangerous, dirty fuel that feeds climate change. That is the definition of insanity. You want true, clean energy Connecticut. Be brave. This is the fight of our lives.
Onchimaka, Mother Earth.
Don't
Ate, ate, name chikowo, hey. Grandfather, your children are having a hard time. Grandfather, your children are safe. Love them, bless them, protect them. I hope it's that.